More Motorsports Today. Carson, this is now the 7th time you guys received at least this left rear tire package, and you guys made some growth at Texas, starting up in front, and had the great run as well with Nashville. Has there been any difficulty for you kind of adapting to it? And also this week as well, a different right side that you guys saw in Indy last year. So how different do you expect this race to be as compared to your first go last year?
Yeah, I'm not really sure how different it's going to be, but we've had our best races on this left side tire. So Texas, and Charlotte, I think has it, and Nashville, and Michigan, and kind of all these places. So yeah, we've been really fast. So hopefully they don't change it anytime soon. That we can keep taking advantage of it. But yeah, I thought this race was pretty good last year, or puts on a decent show. So hopefully it's not too different, but if it's going to be, it's for the positive side of it.
We'll go to Jordan and then Zach.
Jordan down to The Athletic. Got any conversations with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. this week or this weekend?
No, I mean, unfortunately, it's I'm not sure what I would say, right? There's nothing that really would change it, right? We've already had that conversation. I feel like we have a good relationship, or had one, right? It's just running behind him, just kind of logging laps, and just locked up in a very dumb spot. It was just so dumb, really, and just a mistake that didn't need to happen and didn't want it to happen, and but there's nothing that I could do or say. I can't go buy him a Hallmark card and really make things better. So which sucks. It sucks for me because he's the only NASCAR driver that owns a sprint car team, and I love sprint cars. So it sucks because I want to go talk to him about a sprint car team. So hopefully everything can be set. But I know that the scorecard has me ahead right now, unfortunately.
There's been a lot of conversation about you about stuff outside the racetrack, whether it's incidents that happen on the racetrack that carried off, or your comments that you made on Twitch. From your perspective, is it getting to a point where it feels like those around you are kind of getting frustrated a little bit of hey, let's just try to focus, what we're doing instead of the extracurricular stuff?
Well, there's two ways to look at it. Number one, I think everybody in my inner circle, number one, wants the best for me and our group, right? For number one. Number two, I think everybody, I feel like I put myself out there a lot more, right? And my team has, the issue wasn't, for the team having their, kind of frustrations was not that I'm giving my opinion and putting it out there. It's just the fact that, my opinion wasn't my opinion. It was just based off everybody else, that I've heard or seen or anything, right? I didn't go do my own homework and voice my own opinion. When I didn't give it a shot. I didn't give it a chance. I didn't go walk around. I didn't go see it. When I did, then it, hindsight's 20/20. Then I have my own opinion, but I've already put it out there. So I think that was the biggest thing. Was I wasn't doing what I pride myself of doing. It was just having my own opinion and putting it out there and being me. I just didn't give it a fair shot. So I think that's where it all stems from.
We'll go to Zach.
Zach Sternio at NASCAR.com. Carson, how do you put, your name's been out there for a couple of weeks in a row now. Some good like Michigan, despite the result, then obviously the Nashville and Mexico City stuff now. How do you put that behind you and keep your perspective and focus on the job at hand when you have to get behind the wheel?
Yeah, I mean, number one, we're here at a racetrack, so we just go racing, right? I mean, the scorecard, right, has it that I'm getting something from the 47 at some point, right? And I think my team and everybody kind of knows that. But at the same time, it's ideally just the 47, right? It's not a open hunting season on the 77 because of these incidents. It's kind of oscillated to, when the 47, has a moment that he wants to, take at us or take a shot, right? Like, it's just like, okay, that's probably fair. But with everybody else, they've, my team has reassured me that, this isn't open hunting season, right? We are going to race like we've raced. Let's just not create more enemies that we start getting shots back at us. But we're still just gonna race and be aggressive and defend ourselves when we need to. But this is kind of unfortunately now 2-0 scorecard. I've been a fan of this sport for a long time. You know the game and you've seen it and everything. So, but we just go racing.
Dustin Waller, NBC Sports, right? Carson, when you talk about, what the scorecard is with the 47, does that mean if he does something and it ends your race, that's part of it, and that's, I don't know if the word is acceptable in this situation?
Well, I'm hoping, we're really fast here. I'm hoping he's artistic about it, that I don't hit anything, but yeah, just ultimately, right, like it could be tomorrow, or it could be 6 months from now, right? It'll be, you can't, it would be very hypocritical for me to then lose my mind and be frustrated, like it wasn't just like, yeah, okay, like, I've been a fan for a very long time, right? You've seen these, stories before. It's not by no means the first time. So, hopefully, for my sake, it doesn't happen, and we can race, and if I need to, we can point and buy or whatever. But I know how frustrated I was even that I brought this back up because I thought we were good, and I let him go even because I was a lap down or whatever, and I was just riding behind him, and then I locked up. So you live in the world you make for yourself, and this is the world I've made.
And you reference that, just you live in the world that you make. In the last year, you had some great finishes and performances, but you've also accrued $100,000 in fines for suffered incidents that upset some drivers, which, in some cases that's not always a bad thing. I understand that. How do you look at what you need to do moving forward to be, whether it's a better you or a better driver, or if you feel like, hey, I'm doing the right things and I'm just kind of being misunderstood in some situations?
Well, I think there's a bigger thing, or maybe the perception that you make these mistakes, and for me, like, that I don't care. Like, I'm just like, oh, cool, whatever, what's a fine, or what's this, or what's this, I'll never get anything back, it's good. I'm very hard on myself. When I qualified second, I'm just cussing myself out basically. So when I do something really dumb or hit somebody, right, like people just don't see that, right? Because you just go to your hotel room and you bang your head against the wall basically. But it's I'm just because I do something in the heat of the moment doesn't mean, or maybe you do it 2 or 3 times, but it's across some time, that I'm not hard on myself for those mistakes, because they are mistakes. It's just trying not to make that a pattern. But when you're constantly making aggressive moves like we're doing, it's just balancing that fine line of, you make 1,000 moves a day. Just unfortunately, what people remember isn't always the good ones. You always remember the negative ones. So that's just trying to limit the negative ones a lot more.
Do you feel like you've created a pattern for the garage, or is that more for them to answer?
I think, like I already have that image, right? Like it'll never go away. I could go 3 years from now, right? Like, and it, it's just like, oh, I'm back, per se. I think I already made that image before I got in this garage, right? And I think it's just trying to balance one thing of owning it and trying to change the narrative while still being like, yeah, I get it. Like I'm aware of this, right? And knowing that.
Thank
Hey Carson, Don was a fun stretch. I hate to bring up another sore subject, but have you taken a look at the replay from the restart in yesterday's truck race, the final restart, and what were your initial reactions and what are your reactions now?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it, for sure. I mean, we all did. My team was on it. We were all on it. Obviously, I think we all. This instance kind of came up at the Brickyard, right? So like we were in the race and studied it, right? So we instantly knew our 34 is the control car. Perfect. I'm not sure he knew that or their team knew that. So it started slowing the field down a lot. I wish I, just at least waited to the second line, but with me starting to get pushed and having Michigan truck restarts in my head, I just decided to go and see what they would have called, considering the pace was a lot slower, and they called us. So, I felt like I did the best to try to at least give ourselves a fighting shot, where if I kept backing the field down because he was kind of waiting on me to go, that, we probably would have got spun anyways and the race is over. So, I tried, what I thought in the moment was try to, keep our truck rolling and fight for another lap, and we just never got a yell. I mean, I'm sure, but I mean, I thought NASCAR did a pretty good job, honestly, with it all, right? I mean, things just happen so fast. So, I mean, everything can always be better and avoid it. And these circumstances are very unique. So now that it's happened, the second time we go around, everybody's gonna have it, kind of figured out.
We'll go to the middle over here.
Carson, Tim Catalfamo, Motor Racing Network. I wanted to ask you two questions. First, I want to ask you about the Chicago Street Race coming up. As one of the young drivers in the Cup Series, this is the third year that we've run in the street race in Chicago. What are your thoughts on the event as a whole, and what are you looking forward to at that particular event coming up next month?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked Chicago last year, just being able to street race and everything. It's a big market for Ziegler Auto Group that we run with, and so hopefully we can run good for one. I'm hoping it's a little drier this time around. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's very unique. You get to walk from your hotel to the racetrack and everything, and it's just been kind of a cool event. That the racetrack's actually pretty fun too. So yeah, I enjoy it, and hopefully we can run good there.
Then the second question I have for you is about the in-season tournament that's going to start very shortly. Is there going to be a situation once the seeding begins that you're going to want to know who you're racing and have updates about that throughout the race?
I mean, maybe, maybe towards the very end, but right now, I mean, I think we're more focused on our playoff push. That's obviously a lot bigger right now, but I think it's more if we get down to the finalists or the finals that I think we'll pay a little bit more close attention. But it's definitely going to be cool for the fans and everything, and I think it's a very unique idea for unique racetracks that you could see the guy who's seated 32nd win. I think last year they mock did it, and all the big dogs were knocked out week one. So racing, anybody can finish wherever, and anybody can win that tournament, which I think is really cool.
We'll go over here in the middle as well.
Same as JoeParker.com, Carson. If you and Ricky are around each other tomorrow, should you find yourselves racing each other, you're going to give him a wider berth than you would normally?
Probably.
And then you mentioned you've seen these scenarios play out before, just as a fan. With everything going on for you on the track with good finishes, but also some off-track stuff, making some guys in the garage maybe a little unhappy. Do you see it as an example of a young driver kind of taking your legs as you try to grow and mature?
Maybe so. I think the biggest thing for me, I've just been a fan for forever, right? And you always saw the rookie get pushed around and just kind of have to pay their dues. And I was just like, man, if I'm ever in that spot, I'm never gonna get pushed around or man, like, you know, that's how you lose opportunities of races. You know, you never know how long you're going to be in the garage for one. You never know how long, you know, none of us, you know, have a, you know, shot clock waiting on us. You know, you never know. So for me, like, I want to take advantage of every opportunity I have out there, and have no regrets of the effort I put in, and you know, maybe at times instead of just not letting myself get pushed over, I'm trying to push other people over, and that was the wrong mindset or wrong decision at times. But the biggest thing for me was just I didn't want to leave anything on the racetrack that, you know, that I would, you know, looking back long after, you know, oh, I could have won here, or we could have ran really good here, or maybe my career would have been differently if I, you know, came out of the gate as good as we did, you know, because I lost the opportunity, and then, you know, who knows. But you know, as long as I was just putting 100%, you know, I wouldn't have any regrets on how anything turned out. So just sometimes when you're going 110, that's you know, that's sometimes you're like, I didn't really need to do that part.
We'll finish up right over here on the left-hand side.
Matthew Beckley, Race Base Digital. Carson, you sit 60 points below the playoff cut line, and we've had 3 new winners in the last 4 races. Are you feeling more stressed to win a race and lock yourself in, or do you think you can still punch your way in?
Yeah, I mean, I think by DNF 3, I think our mulligan was over for pointing in. So we had already kind of been pointed in. You know, that's kind of why. You know, I think Nashville we were in second. We were frustrated. Even Atlanta, I was like disappointed you're on second. You know, because you know, our stage points, I think were, you know, 7th or 8th highest stage points, but we're like 32nd of finish points. So, you know, if you kind of just could have skipped, you know, raised our floor a little bit, but you know, there's just been a lot of, you know, freak issues or, you know, circumstances that took us out of races that, you know, we'd be a lot better spot. But you know, you're just giving up points nonstop. That, you know, we could find those 60 points really easily between like 2 or 3 races, unfortunately. But yeah, we've been, you know, it's not shell shock that we're sitting here in a must-win kind of situation.
Thank you, Carson. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.